Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto manga review. This is going to be my review for Boruto chapter 67, which is called Rift. So this was probably one of the most hyped chapters of Boruto we've maybe ever had. Major cliffhanger ending from last month's chapter and huge expectations for they have to do something notable here. There's no way they can't have something significant happen. And ultimately, I think for the most part, they delivered. Now, they didn't do, I suppose, what a lot of the really cool speculation thought they could do, in that there's no Jogon, they don't change the direction of the story by having Boruto be dead for a while and mess around with resurrection later on. Instead, they commit to the idea of, no, we are going to resolve Boruto being dead within this chapter, but we're going to do it in a very interesting way that basically resolves a couple of plot threads in a way, but also changes a few of the dynamics as well. So I actually felt that this, while maybe not, being as crazy hype as, say, the chapter when they eventually do get back around to sort of revealing the Jogon probably will be, they delivered on, I think, most of what you want out of this chapter, in that it actually felt like page to page a lot happened in this one, whereas the majority of Boruto chapters, you can maybe say half, maybe even over half of the pages feel almost needless, that so little of substance happens. But here, because we have to have a big reaction to a major thing that happened last chapter and make progress, this chapter felt kind of packed, or at the very least packed for this series, and that's good. That's really, really good. So let's get into the specifics here. Let's do this sort of recap kind of discussion as we go. So we get Naruto's reaction to Boruto's death. He can't believe that this is happening. When we cut back into this in the next scene, we'll see that he's asking people, is this a dream? He cannot believe that this has happened. Interesting way to sort of characterize Naruto here, of the emotion of seeing what's in front of him, but being unable to believe it. Kind of in a way, the way the fans are kind of thinking, both in terms of the reaction to last month's chapter, as well as the speculation of there's no way they're going to kill Boruto, is there? There's no way they're going to keep him dead. We're kind of similar to Naruto. We see a tough look on Kawaki's face, so you can tell that, this was a tough thing for him to do, but he knows it's something that he did have to do. We see Code holding on to Shikamaru again. This is part of the dynamic. He has lost complete control of this situation now, and that's probably one of the most interesting things about this, is that this was all about him, and now he's almost like a non-factor in this. So they do bring Code more back into play here, which I do appreciate. Ada back at base is saying, wasn't Boruto meant to be the sacrifice? What are you going to do now? Because she makes the point here, doubles down on it. Don't you dare even think about using Kawaki for the sacrifice, because she wants to meet Kawaki and maybe try and form a relationship with him. She's made her decision here. Boruto is planned to be the sacrifice, not Kawaki. And now that Boruto's dead, what are you going to do? So this seemingly ruins Code's plan, in that one of his allies won't work with him now to accomplish something, because the only way to accomplish it is with Kawaki. So he decides that, okay, I'll head back, let's talk it out. And he's basically ready to go, make some claw marks on the ground, is about to just leave here to retreat. Tells Kawaki, I have an urgent matter, I'm retreating temporarily, remember this, acquiring power won't change anything, you'll still never be free for your entire life, someone will always be leading you around by the nose, that's far better, that's the fate you bear, I know it well. And it's an interesting one in that, if Code did leave here, you'd maybe read into that. But the fact that he doesn't get to leave and then they go on to have a fight, it feels like, is that just Code trying to get one over on Kawaki and there's not much to it? Because right now it feels like Kawaki is making decisions for himself. Now, is Code maybe trying to frame this as you seem to care for Naruto so much that it's like guiding your actions to the point where you're not free because you're constantly needing to look after him? Maybe that's the point that's trying to be made here. But of course, Kawaki basically has the powers of a Shiki, so he shrinks the claw marks and Code just crashes into the ground. And this is where we get the sort of gulf in power here. Code, with his limiter still on, is no match for the level that Kawaki seems to be at. So this is cool because they directly then later set up the idea of what will this fight be like when they fight again, but Code has the limiters off. Will it be even? Or what is Code like even stronger than this? Because Kawaki has basically complete dominance in this fight. Kawaki just says, you're in a position to arrogantly talk about other people's fates, Code. I'll eliminate anyone threatening Lord Seventh's life, even my bro. What makes you think I'd let you get away? And he's just, going straight at Code here. A little bit of sort of taijutsu here, but it's not close. Just Kawaki, full dominance. Code even acknowledges he's being completely overpowered, that it's bad. So, the fight actually making some progress. They're not filling up too much of the chapter with sort of basic fighting. It actually feels like it's significant stuff that's happening here. So Code had sort of thrown Shikamaru aside. He rushes over to Naruto because they should probably be jumping into this fight to try and help out to eliminate Code. But Naruto is just lost dealing with what's happened to Boruto. Just saying, pull yourself together. This is where he says, am I dreaming this? It's noted that Naruto's not even in Sage mode anymore. He asked him, tell me that this is a lie. So Shikamaru really has to shout at Naruto to kind of get him, back into, just the situation at hand. Snap out of it, you're the Hokage, remember? Boruto chose this himself to protect the rest of us. This is no time for you to lose your grip. So I do like this because it is, Shikamaru fulfilling that role of he is now he's always been in Shippuden and stuff like that, but especially now he's the Hokage advisor, but he's also one of Naruto's best friends. And so there's those two factors sort of coming in here, and I like to see this more kind of emotional side of Shikamaru helping Naruto here. We cut back to the fight, and Kawaki's breaking out the sort of the rods, kind of shrinking them, making them bigger. And again, Code is just getting absolutely destroyed here. And Code pretty much admits that, I'm going to be defeated here. What can I do? Just before he goes for the finishing blow, Kawaki does say, this person who wants to meet me, I don't know their motives, but if they're against Lord Seventh, no mercy for them either. So Code's last-ditch attempt to basically prevent himself from being destroyed by, I guess what he's going for here is expanding the chakra rods to just sort of rip Code apart or something like that. He has a claw mark in his head, of course, so he reaches in there. And we just get the sort of reaction to this, which is that Kawaki is blown back by an attack and is almost knocked out. And the question is, why did this happen? So if you've been paying attention, you kind of realize what the case is. But they reveal it pretty quickly, basically next page. Code pulls Demon out of his head. And obviously this is Demon's reflecting ability here. So obviously Kawaki attacked with an intent to kill, and Demon can reflect that. That's the explanation that we've had so far. So again, the only way to counter Demon is to fight without an intent to kill, and that might be tricky for certain characters, especially Kawaki. So even though Code, I guess, is technically a more powerful fighter, Demon's ability counters Kawaki quite heavily. So yeah, Demon just is here. He's oh, sorry to wake you up, but I just wanted to protect you. Demon does say oh, we're fighting. Okay, I'll crush whoever you want for you. But Code just sends Demon straight back. So he literally just grabbed him, reflect, pops him back in. And again, Ada reiterates, you better not kill Kawaki. If anything should happen to him, you'll be certain to regret it. So, he confirms Kawaki's still alive. Good. But it's really you who can breathe easy, Code. You had your answer. Had your answer been different, I'd have sent Demon back over in order to dispose of you. So they're really bigging up Demon as being like kind of almost impossible to defeat. And yeah, this is where he admits, I have to get my limiter removed, otherwise he doesn't have a chance against Kawaki. And he does again reiterate that it is Amado who needs to get the limiter removed. So that is his ultimate goal at this point. With Kawaki opposing him, he can't really do anything here. So we actually do get Code finally retreating. He sort of threatened to do this with hostages, different characters, just on his own. Now he finally does retreat. So this is actually a major plot progression, because we've been stuck out here on this battlefield for quite a while now. So it is a big move in the story to finally move away from it, especially with what they do. And again, I'll note here, we're on about page 25 of this chapter. Typically, the first 25 or so pages of chapters, you can just blow through them in a couple of minutes, but there's actually significant stuff happening every couple of pages, so that is good. So, Shikamaru then brings up Kawaki and how they're going to approach dealing with him, given what he's done. And I like this because Naruto's initially like, consider what? What do you mean? He killed his own comrade. He didn't hesitate at all. Naruto says, what Kawaki did wasn't his fault alone. Shikamaru says, maybe not. Sooner or later, we might not have had any other choice. But this, to deal with Momoshiki's power, however, what I see as the biggest issue here is that he'll do whatever it takes for the sake of his goals. That's what today has made crystal clear. So this is basically Naruto viewing Kawaki as a member of his family and being unwilling to blame him even for the death of Boruto, and sort of now that he's sort of snapped out of that initial grief, kind of realizing that no, this is not something we should really go at Kawaki for. Whereas Shikamaru is getting to the core of the issue with Kawaki, which is that, okay, what he did ultimately, we might have had to do ourselves at some point. It's like Sasuke was planning to do it himself if Boruto went out of control. That's not necessarily the problem. It's sort of the way Kawaki's been talking about things, is that to protect Naruto, he'll do whatever it takes, even if it doesn't necessarily align with the village or even with what Naruto wants. That's the key issue here. So Shikamaru has sort of roughly latched onto what is going to be the most difficult part about sort of in a way controlling Kawaki, if you kind of view it that way. The only thing he cares about is keeping Naruto safe, and he'll do whatever he needs to do that. Yeah, we get into the idea, Shikamaru again brings up, we also have to consider how the other villages are going to treat Kawaki and what they will want done or not done. There'll be backlash. Naruto says, Boruto considers Kawaki a brother. He's practically a part of our family, no matter what he does or what anyone else says. If his family can't stand by him at a time like this, who's gonna take his side? And Shikamaru goes to say, is that how you truly feel? Even now, you still think of him as family, given that he killed your son. And Naruto just screams, enough. But then we get the sort of surprise turn here of Naruto is sort of bumped in the chest, and he looks down and Boruto's alive. The hole in his chest is healed, and Boruto says, who was killed? And it's this absolute shock, because they've done no setup so far in the chapter to figuring out what has actually happened. That's rude, writing me off like that. Big emotional reaction from Naruto here, hugging Boruto. And Shikamaru is the one to sort of analyze this, of how did this happen? But it's noted his chest is fully healed and all. But this is where sort of Boruto looks down at his own chest, sees the damage to his clothes. But then we sort of transition into, I suppose, only Boruto seeing the vision of Momoshiki. And this is sort of the explanation that we get here for how Boruto has been healed. So the answer to the big cliffhanger from last month's chapter is Momoshiki healed Boruto. And I said in my speculation video that I think the only thing maybe a little bit more boring than that would have just been like, oh, a powerful healer like Sakura or Tsunade can actually heal this wound. That would have been exceptionally boring and gone completely against like any, dynamic aspects of the plot. I thought the second option that would be sort of like, I guess, fine, but ultimately still rather boring would be if they just went with one of the benefits Boruto gets from having the karma mark and the connection with Momoshiki is that Momoshiki can heal him. And that's what they go for here. But with the twist of basically having a major question answered, in that this seemingly sets in stone now the position of Boruto when it comes to, the reincarnation thing with Momoshiki. This is now the situation that I guess he is still in the flash forward. The worry of Momoshiki might reincarnate into Boruto is now gone based on how this is explained. And I thought that was actually really cleverly done, because they were always going to have to find some workaround for that, because if they weren't going to do something here with regards to like Boruto basically almost like taking over the reincarnation and reincarnating himself to solve the problem of his death, they'd have to do something crazy down the line with it. But this solves that problem. That's dealt with. Now it's just Momoshiki's still going to be around, but not as much of a danger as he was before. So how does it work now? And this is going to be quite a cool thing to explore. So what's going on here? Momoshiki's logic is, the loss of my vessel will result in my soul's instant extinguishment, just like in Ishiki's case. In addition to being a receptacle for one's soul, a vessel also serve as its anchor to the world of the living. You're my sole, priceless vessel. I can't afford to lose you for my own sake. So that's why he stepped in to save Boruto, because it's ultimately the only way to save himself. He can't let Boruto die, otherwise he's gone too. So the explanation of the healing is that part of your heart and lungs were destroyed and you lost a large amount of blood. You would have died, of course, had I not interfered. I resuscitated you using part of the karma. So he explains that Boruto's karma was 82% extracted, so only 18% left to go until Momoshiki could have fully resurrected using Boruto and been a major threat to the world. He says, my resurrection would have finally become possible if the remaining 18% finished extracting, but regrettably, not if my vessel itself were to get destroyed beforehand. So I had no choice but to rewrite the last 18% into your data so that the cells and tissues you lost could be fabricated anew. In short, Boruto says this, in short, you used parts that were meant for your body to revive me. Precisely. Unfortunately, you taking away 18% of my data has made it impossible for me to resurrect. And Boruto sort of, speaks up a little bit here and is like, I see, I guess that means I win, since my resolve to die has managed to prevent your resurrection. He does say, don't get too excited, lad. The reason why I'm talking to you is to impart a warning. Rewritten or not, it started off as Otsutsuki data originally. There's no change in the fact that all 100% of the Otsutsuki data has finished extracting, which means you are now a pure, genuine, complete Otsutsuki. And that signifies only one thing: you are ready to be sacrificed to Ten Tails. Code will realize this soon. And he just says, bear in mind, your return to life is not an event that will ever be repeated. You will stay dead next time. As in, basically, I was able to do that because of the unique situation where there was still some data left to be extracted that I could use in a different way. That is not going to be the case any longer. So this crazy save from death thing, not going to happen again. Like that they at least clarified that. This is where Boruto asked the question that I think everyone's been asking. I didn't expect them to get to this almost anytime soon. You once said to me, beware, those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you. I've died once. Is this what you meant by take everything from you? And Momoshiki just starts laughing and says, no, this has nothing on that. And that is bolded, as in, like, that event, the thing that your eyes will take from you. And why that will come to pass, even I cannot see. So Momoshiki seems to know what will happen, but he doesn't know the events that eventually lead to that exact thing happening. But it will be soon. The time draws near. It shall be a true spectacle, lad. And he just laughs and, I guess, disappears for the time being. We just cut away from the scene, so, you know, and when we come back, he's not talking to Momoshiki. So that's really, really fascinating way to end that with, you know, you might have been disappointed that it was just the Momoshiki thing that healed him. But actually now it's this crazy situation where I guess Momoshiki is just going to be that sort of being in Boruto's head for like the rest of his life. And I actually like that as a plot kind of thing, that Momoshiki is never going to now be sort of a danger of coming out again. Maybe the whole Borushiki modes are still going to be a thing. It's just Boruto will have much more control over it and there's no risk of a rampage, I guess. But to always have Momoshiki there to sort of speak to Boruto at a key moment, I actually like that. Especially if the future of the series is dealing with the greater Otsutsuki kind of population, the heads of the clan and stuff like that. His perspective on things is quite interesting, just to get one characterized very, very heavily. That he's going to be here for, I guess, a long time as just the guy on Boruto's shoulder, and that's kind of interesting. Last page is Code back at base with Ada. Amado being protected right in the middle of Konoha. You don't have a single claw mark there. How will you get near him? And Code just says, don't you worry, I've already taken measures. And the final panel shows basically Shikamaru looking at the sort of reunion between Naruto and Boruto. So the idea is that, I guess, I think it's really obvious, Code has placed a claw mark on Shikamaru when he sort of pushed him away, you know, as a hostage, basically, and didn't decide to take him with him. So, like was set up in this chapter, the fact that, like, he had a claw mark on Ada, he has one on Shikamaru now as well. And so we're going to move back from this battlefield out here in the forest, back to the village, and all of a sudden, Code has an easy way to get straight to the middle of Konoha whenever he wants. So Code has actually done something extremely clever here and has set up the next sort of plot point for the series, in that I guess there's going to be a sense for like, oh, we're done for now. We're just going to head back and kind of, you know, build things up. This could happen quite quickly, of just he waits for Ada to reveal that, okay, Shikamaru's back in the village. He just goes straight for it, in that they'll let their guard down thinking that one threat is passed. One's not going to happen straight away. Easy way to, I suppose, quickly get in there, grab, threaten, get Amado to do what you want. He gets his limiter removed, and then he's even more of a threat. So the big question is now, okay, they've directly told us that some of the earlier setup of the big plot points in this series are happening soon. The whole, your blue eyes will take everything away from you. That event, whatever that is happening soon. I love that setup, that we're finally getting back around to that, because I felt they teased that for ages, like past the time skip and something like that, something even bigger that we knew nothing about. But no, it seems like this is happening anytime now. Obviously the word soon can mean a lot, especially coming from an Otsutsuki. It could mean like many, many years. It could mean post time skip, but I think you have to like treat it as being, they told us that for a reason, and it's gonna be kind of fascinating. So we end the chapter in a very interesting spot where, like, okay, Shikamaru, and wherever he is, creates an opening for Code to just pop out at will. So that's fascinating by itself. Kawaki is now basically the most powerful character in the series until I guess Code gets his power unlimited, at which point I'm guessing they're going to be roughly equal. They'll probably do a thing where it seems like Code is more powerful, but Kawaki maybe gets more used to his powers and has the potential to be stronger. A lot is now going to go back on Boruto, and now that he's sort of locked in place of he's fully extracted, the whole karma thing is sort of done, but Momoshiki can't take over, so Boruto just now has the powers of an Otsutsuki, and I guess this will open him up to being able to use a lot of Momoshiki's power more easily. And Momoshiki is going to have to take an interesting approach of, like, if it's just a thing where, like, he can never fully take over Boruto, what if he just forever tries to, like, influence Boruto? That this is his only opportunity, is to basically force Boruto to go down a similar path. And I think it's going to be a fascinating dynamic to play on of, like, who influences who more. Because I could see maybe sometime down the road, Boruto maybe getting through to Momoshiki, changing Momoshiki's perspective on things with the rest of the Otsutsuki clan in mind. I actually really like this kind of plot progression. Obviously, you know, it would have been cool if we got the sort of Jogon plot, but at least there are sort of allusions to the stuff that gets us closer to Jogon with the whole you know, tease here of, oh, that big event that was teased long ago coming up soon, but he doesn't know the exact sequence of events to get there, just that we're in or around that time, and that's cool. There's also, just in terms of more of the debate style aspect of things, Kawaki's actions now place him in a weird position where, as the most powerful character, no one can really control him. And he's also shown a tendency to now act on his own. So handling him is going to be very key. And Naruto not blaming Kawaki for what he did is key. Otherwise, like, Shikamaru might run the risk of setting Kawaki off and making him uncontrollable. So that's going to be key to see, like, when they reveal what happened to the rest of the village, how is Kawaki viewed? Other characters, when they find out, does that change the dynamics at all? A lot will depend, I guess, on Naruto and Boruto really defending Kawaki to everyone else. And anything else, I suppose, just if the further tease of Ada still wants to meet Kawaki at some point. When will that happen or not? Because Kawaki's still unconscious, I believe, by the end of the chapter, isn't he? Yeah, he's basically knocked out by that attack. The sort of counter attack. Code would probably be best to try and act quickly, like quickly strike the village, get Amado to remove his limiter, so he's powerful enough to, you know, contain Kawaki if he wakes up again, when he wakes up again, and just allow Kawaki to interact with Ada and, you know, see where exactly that goes. But yeah, overall, absolutely really loved the chapter. Didn't have a lot of the problems that tend to sort of, in a way, like, almost plague the series, of a lot of, like, inconsequential pages. A lot happens here from the start right to the end. There's good detail. It feels like it's well planned out, and it's giving you an insight into where it's actually heading. A lot of the times they'll just do these volume ending chapters sometimes can be a little bit of a random cliffhanger that could go anywhere, but I feel there's enough specifics that there's a lot to get into now. So I'm guessing there's maybe like one or two more sequences before we maybe go into some sort of a time skip. But I think a lot of big things are going to happen rather soon in Boruto, and that's very, very exciting. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. How did the actual chapter go compared to your expectations for it, especially when it comes to dealing with the, you know, death of Boruto and how they resolved it? What did you think they do versus your thoughts on how they actually did it? And where do you think things are going now that some kind of major plot progress has happened? We've been on this battlefield for a while, but the plot here is actually over and we're doing something different, even though it's related. So good stuff there. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.